Do you recall being talked to by folks there at the Capitol? Leave Mr. McDonald alone. Do you remember that? Do you remember how you responded, if you changed your behavior in response to that or anything like that?
It all started with COVID, and being isolated must have caused me to become more aggressive because I used to be around people when COVID happened. And then when COVID was gone, my neighbor, who's Patrick, been obsessed with him because I have autism.
First, and we've got matter 26-270, petitioner Patrick McDonald. Here. Present. All right. And Nicholas Saragino.
Sure. Yes, I'm here.
Saragino.
Saragino. All right. Saragino. Present on Zoom. Okay. In the matter 26-283, do we have, let's see, Casey Marie Case? Present? Okay. How about Jordan Frazier for that matter? Okay. All right, now, Ms. Case, why don't you come on up here real quick? Let's see. And ma'am, I see that a temporary order was granted, but we haven't had any service yet on the respondent. So we can't have the hearing until the respondent is served with a copy. Do you have any questions about how to go about doing that?
Well, we dropped the paperwork off the following day with Tacoma Police Department, and Tyler did, my husband did.
Okay.
And they said there was no way to, like, nobody to follow up with as far as whether he had been served or not. He's been evading since the initial report, which was the week before.
Okay. All right. Well, and you're welcome to. Thank you. You're welcome to continue using law enforcement as for providing service. But before we have the hearing, there needs to be proof that the respondent Jordan Frazier has been served with the paperwork. And so without that, what we'll do today is we can reissue the temporary order and reschedule the hearing. But without service, we can't move forward with the hearing because the respondent needs to be served in order to have that.
If we have no way to contact him,
there are ways there's a variety of ways to serve. If somebody is evading service, there's ways after, depending on the context, and I wasn't the original judicial officer here, but depending on the reason why you're using law enforcement, after 2 unsuccessful attempts at personal service, there's ways to do service by mail. Some other ways, there's electronic service as well. So the Civil Protection Order statute goes over those a variety of ways you can serve someone. I can't really give you legal advice on how to do that, but the statute does lay out how to do service. It doesn't have to just be personal service. And again, the return of service, a copy of which should be in the service packet you receive, there is an option to show, personal service unsuccessful. And then that's for cases where somebody is just, you can't serve them personally. And then there's other ways to do it if somebody's dodging service or something like that. The statute goes over ways to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But what we'll do today is reissue the temporary order, so that will remain in effect. And then we'll reschedule the hearing. Let's see. For May 6th. May 6th. August 6th. Nope. I'm sorry. July 6th. Sorry. And all right. That's not the day we have off, is it? No. Okay. That's the 3rd. Okay. It says is the respondent in custody? Okay. It's just I think whoever signed the temporary order put law enforcement as the
Yeah, we told him they were gonna use Tacoma Police Department.
Okay, is that by your,
And that could have been judged directly.
Okay.
He does that, but it's still up to them.
Okay.
It's up to them.
all right, yeah, so the reason I'm asking is sometimes if, for example, someone's in custody or if there's a order to surrender weapons, law enforcement needs to be the organization that serves the person. If not, if it's not required, you can still use law enforcement to serve process. It's just sometimes it's unclear which is the reason, and it's
We just don't know how to locate it. We figure law enforcement.
okay, and that's fine. You can continue using. It looks like Tacoma Police. Okay, so I'm signing the reissuance of the temporary protection order and resetting the hearing again. That will be July 6th, right back here at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we're going to email you the updated service packet because that will include the reissued order as well as the updated hearing time and date.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just continue to check in with Tacoma, the Tacoma Police Department. Again, they'll need to file some kind of return of service. And if personal service is unsuccessful, again, the statute outlines ways to serve someone alternatively.
Okay.
I know I can't be much help as far as giving legal advice, but do you have any other questions?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. I take another packet to Tacoma Police and just begin again.
That's right. And we'll send you that. We send them the reissued packet. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna print her a copy of it. It's just not the reissue it.
Okay.
Yes, the rest of the packet will email.
Okay, so same as last time. We'll just try to do it again before the next hearing.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both. So sounds like we'll get you these copies and then you're free to go.
Thank
Thank you. All right, for matter 26-249, do we have Courtney Anderson? All right, last call, Courtney Brianne Anderson, not seeing that person. All right. Looks like there's a temporary order that expires today. There hadn't been any service. Do we have David Knobloch? All right. And I'll just do that after the hearing.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, matter 26-272. Do we have Kylie Kuffner? Is anyone on Zoom? Okay, that'll be same. Looks like there's no service. For 26-282, do we have, let's see, Eleanor Price? No. Paul Manzanares? Okay. It's like no temporary order there, no service. Well, the denial there. After the calendar, and then for 26-284, let's see, Valerie King.
Yes, Your Honor.
There. All right, we got Valerie King. And co-petitioner Adrian Boyce, who I understand is at Thurston County Corrections, is that right, Ms. King?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And respondent Zachary Vassar.
Present.
Present on Zoom. Okay. All right, thank you. So it looks like we have parties present for 26-270 as well as 26-284. So we'll go in order, beginning with 26-270. But before I start calling individual cases, there's a few matters I'm going to go over generally that are applicable to each matter. And that is to begin with outlining the legal definitions of unlawful harassment as well as stalking. I think it's good to start with these legal definitions before we go into the hearing themselves for a couple of reasons. Number one, is terms like harassment and stalking. We use those very commonly in everyday language to describe a wide variety of conduct that sometimes does and oftentimes does not meet the legal definition of harassment and stalking. So I think it's important to set the tone at the beginning of these hearings by going over the elements of the legal definitions. And also keeping in mind that at these hearings, the petitioner bears what we call the burden of proof. So that means it's the petitioner's responsibility to prove each element of these legal definitions by what we call a preponderance of the evidence. And that's the legal way of saying more likely than not. So the petitioner has the responsibility to show that each of the elements exists more likely than not in order for the court to have the legal grounds to issue an anti-harassment protection order. So I'm going to go over those definitions now, and I'm going to begin with unlawful harassment. So unlawful harassment has 6 elements, again, each of which needs to be proven as existing more likely than not. The first element for unlawful harassment is a knowing and willful course of conduct. So what that means is there needs to be some sort of pattern of behavior that is alleged to have occurred here. It does occur in some situations where a single act or threat of violence may be used as the basis of an anti-harassment protection order. Those are rare. Ms. King, I know that I think yours may qualify for one of those, or at least it may qualify as the allegation. So I'll get to that a little bit more for your case. But generally speaking, we're looking for an ongoing course of conduct. Number 2, directed at a specific person. Number 3, that is without a lawful or legitimate purpose. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this element. By without a lawful or legitimate purpose, what we're talking about is conduct that is initiated by the respondent or where the respondent has been given clear notice that ongoing behavior is unwanted and that behavior nevertheless persists. The behavior has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with the petitioner's privacy, creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive living environment, things of that nature. So we're looking at those types of factors when determining whether or not that conduct is without lawful or legitimate purpose. Number 4, that the conduct appears designed to alarm, annoy, or harass the petitioner or is detrimental to the petitioner. So there needs to be some sort of effect on the petitioner. And that behavior and that effect would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress. And finally, that it actually does cause the petitioner to suffer substantial emotional distress. So again, those are the 6 elements of unlawful harassment. Stalking, because I know this is, I believe this is alleged in each case, is similar but slightly different. So I'll take the time to go over the stalking definition as well. That again is a knowing, willful and knowing course of conduct. So again, a pattern of behavior involving repeated contacts, monitoring, tracking, surveillance, keeping under observation, disrupting activities in a harassing manner, or following of another person. That would cause a reasonable person to feel intimidated, frightened, under duress, significantly disrupted, or threatened. That again serves no lawful or legitimate purpose. And the respondent knows or reasonably should know that that is the impact the behavior is causing on the petitioner. And the person being stalked suffers substantial emotional distress or is placed in fear that the stalker intends to injure them or another person or property. So that's the definition of stalking. For a single threat or act of violence, that is essentially the same as unlawful harassment, only instead of a knowing and willful course of conduct, a single act may qualify. The other elements are the same. And that single act, though, needs to be either done in the presence of a firearm or a malicious and intentional threat. In other words, a hate crime. So if there's conduct that happens just once that meets the definition rather than a course of conduct, but is either meets the legal definition of a hate crime or is done in the presence of a firearm or other weapon, that may qualify for unlawful harassment. So those are the legal definitions, particularly for the petitioners as you're going through your testimony. keep those elements in mind because those will form the basis of what I'm looking for in testimony. And when I ask questions, they'll be geared towards one of those elements. And then similarly with the respondent, if you'd like to address those allegations against you, though, again, those are the elements I'm looking for. Generally, some ground rules. We've got most folks on Zoom, only one in the courtroom, but this applies regardless. And that is, these hearings are, they can be inherently uncomfortable, where you will likely hear things said against you or about you that you vehemently disagree with, that may make you angry and upset, that you think are not true, or you dispute their characterization. It is vitally important that you direct all of your comments to me. Do not start arguing with each other. Do not start interrupting each other. For folks on Zoom, if that starts to happen, we will mute you, and your testimony may then be over. And I'll make a decision based on what I've heard so far and what I've seen in the files. At these hearings, the rules of evidence do not apply. And the record consists of what's in the petitions that have been filed and any responsive documents, as well as your testimony today. So everything that you tell me is going to be under oath. How it's going to work is I'll call each case up individually, and then I'll call the petitioner, put the petitioner under oath, hear testimony, and then I'll call the respondent, put the respondent under oath and hear testimony, and then make a decision. These are relatively informal, and so I like to use this opportunity to ask questions, be confident that I have reviewed everything that's been filed. And so it's, again, my opportunity to ask questions for folks. Last thing is, if there are individuals who are not parties who you wish to testify, there does need to be a finding by me that their testimony is necessary and material to the outcome, meaning that I essentially can't make a decision without hearing from them. And so that's a relatively high bar. And so I'll go ahead and consider that if folks want non-parties to testify, but that's a finding I'd need to make first. So with all of that, again, we're going to start with 26-270, Patrick McDonald versus Nicholas Saragino. All right, so we have Mr. Don McDonald here in court. If you please come up to the table, sir. And the last thing I'll say is what I like to do is begin by giving a brief outline of my understanding of the allegations and what's in the record so far. I think that helps the parties understand where I'm coming from, and then you can address your testimony towards questions I may pose, or gaps in my understanding of the allegations. If I get something wrong based on my review of the record, it's your opportunity to let me know. But I like to start there so folks have a sense of where I'm coming from. So in this matter, having reviewed the petition and the exhibits, Mr. McDonald is alleging that Mr. Saragino, over the last several years, has been coming to work, and his work at the Secretary of State's office there at the Legislative Building, and that it appears from the exhibits, perhaps given the nature of the building and its public nature, staff has been working with Mr. Saragino to try to allow him to come into the building, but over time that's been limited in an attempt to protect Mr. McDonald and his working environment, but that there's been some escalation in the last few weeks that now includes Mr. McDonald alleging that Mr. Saragino's following him home, afraid to leave the office at the end of the day, and just there's been some general just escalation in that type of behavior that has driven him to file for this petition. With that said, Mr. McDonald, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide in this matter is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go right ahead.
Well, thank you very much. And I will try not to repeat the items that you've already read. I apologize if I do in the process. And my comments are rather long, but I'll make sure I try to get as fast as possible. And with your permission, I'm better off reading this instead of, okay. In the Secretary of State's office, it's my job to set, display, and manage protocol security for our office, which includes the lobby, and I handle a wide variety of issues, including I manage 14 buildings. I happen to deal with sovereign citizens on a weekly basis, and a lot of what I call conflict resolution, trying to bring situations down when people are angry and come into the office. Honestly, my job description is about 3 pages long. And so, not to belabor the issue, I've been with the Secretary of State for 25 years. I started working in the legislative building as an intern for Governor Spellman in January 1983, for an intern from St. Martin's. I also spent 30 years in the Army Reserves undertaking humanitarian missions around the world, and came from a family who operated group homes for the developmentally disabled, elderly, and infirm. My father said the first modern American nursing homes in the United States. So I grew up around those facilities. Also important in this case is that I live a block south of the Capitol and 3 blocks north of Nick's house. My street is a side street. It is not any direct route to the Capitol. A bit of background. Before COVID, Nick would usually hang around the Capitol, not interact a lot. We'd say hi to him. He'd sit outside the governor's office with his computer. After COVID, and he's pointed this out in his various emails, after COVID, his attitude and personality changed. He became increasingly aggressive. And I have to say, none of us fear that he's going to be violent, but he's become increasingly aggressive, prompting greater management of his constant visits to our office by management myself. When the office opened to the public in late 2022, we had a miniature Boeing military jet in our public display case, since it represented a corporation, which is a core element of our office's statutory and constitutional mission at setting up corporations, nonprofits, etc. It was on loan from Fairchild Air Force Base. He became obsessed over the plane and would ask visitors and staff to purchase him a plane, and complained that he was poor, as you can see in the emails, complaining that he was poor and they were unable to provide for him, and often interrupted tours in the office to attempt to keep visitors away from the glass case, sometimes coming into our lobby up to 15 times a day to quote unquote check on his plane. After his disruptive behavior, my management, not I, but my management directed me to remove the plane and return it back to the Air Force in Spokane, which I did. That was early 2023. And from that point onward, he focused his ire, frustration, antagonism toward me and no one else, writing dozens and dozens of emails, public social media postings, and would approach visitors and the legislative staff alike, complaining about me and asking that they demand I return his plane. He would tell them that the removal of the plane causes them mental issues. Note his emails and social media postings that are part of the initial from May 2023 that are contained in the protection order filing, and I'll refer a little bit to that later. That brings us to this case. My next comments will show that Nicholas has little to keep him busy, focused, and few boundaries around his behavior, except for what those who are impacted by his behavior have to set on a constant basis, and he, after a short period of time, ignores. His actions and harassment are focused on me and me alone, and it includes him constantly following me, even when he knows he is stalking, as he writes in his emails when he apologizes for stalking me. It is clear that he has been doing this for at least 3 years and has exponentially increased over the past 6 months. His behavior is meant to annoy, alarm, and harass me, specifically without lawful or legitimate purpose, causes me emotional distress and my privacy at home and my workplace. And I and my coworkers are impacted by his actions. Even though he has been clearly told to stop several times over the past 3 years by the State Patrol staff and staff of the visitor services and security services and my office trying to get him to curb, it only results in more aggressive and, again, not violent behavior. Testimonials included in the evidence are from a number of people who work at the Capitol and in my office, back up this contention. They are the front line to his behavior. But it is important to note that although he is around the building for hours every day, any focus and harassing behavior is toward me and me only. Kate Jacob, in her June 10, 2026 statement, which is in evidence, is the most thorough, since she is the one who has to deal with Nick directly and has tried on several occasions to discuss his behavior. But while Nick knows what he is doing wrong and harassing, he even repeats it back to her. He is back at it within a week or two. Kelly, Angie, and Gabby, who have written emails as well, who are in the main office and work in the lobby, have all experienced Nick's obsessive behavior and his constant asking about where I am, when I'll be at work, and personal questions about me, even after they tell him to stop. He is not asking about anyone else, only me. His many emails are written not only to me, but numerous others demanding that I be his friend and take care of him, his finances, and his psychological challenges. And as you know, I'm sorry, I mean to say that. As you can see, I'm not making this up. He is writing that himself. Emails in evidence, especially in mid-2023, reveals that Nick knows what he is doing is wrong, that he is harassing and stalking. Those are his words. And that he will stop only to turn up the behavior within 2 weeks. He has flooded our office with emails to me and my coworkers. A set of emails, 3 of which are included in the evidence, of which 2 are dated May 9th and 1 May 10th, 2023. He apologized for interrupting our office, the staff, the tours, and me, and then demands a job in our office. But in all cases, his focus is solely on me, especially the one at 6:04 in the evening, where he says he has heart attack symptoms and he wants to be my best friend. And if I don't, his symptoms will worsen, including depression, dizziness, and chest pains. Others came on July 17th to July 27, 2023, where several were sent between 2 and 5 a.m. Both those sets of emails are included in the evidence sent to July 17th and July 23rd emails. Also included is a set of postings on the Secretary of State's Twitter account, where Nick blames me, and this was in the initial filing, by the way, where Nick blames me for his mistreatment and demands that the plane be returned. He blames my 30 years of Army Reserve, my 9 deployments, that somehow I don't understand his issues. There were numerous times that he says he will commit suicide, and it is clear in those emails, in some effort to gain sympathy from me. But in all cases, I reported such emails to the State Patrol. Some of those emails are included in the evidence, such as the one dated 22 December 2023, where he says he has suicidal thoughts. In this case, I was very direct because he kept, and he was responding to how I reacted to him. He kept looking into the windows of my house, stood on a chair at one point to see inside on the side porch, and I caught him, and he apologized in the emails for stalking me at home and for looking in my windows, but makes no effort to stop trying to look inside my house. So I had to purposely change my blinds and lock my back porch. On Christmas Day 2023, he tried again, and I got after him. He used the excuse that the demolition of the new house building exposed him to loud noises, and he has to go out of my way through my neighborhood, which, by the way, takes him right by the new house building. It is not a straight trajectory, and I am the only house who gets his focus out of the 15 houses in my neighborhood. And my street's only a block and a half long, by the way. There was another dated January 16, 2024, and it's in the initial filing, which he states he would kill himself when his parents died to be in a better place unless I would be his best friend. In early 2025, he was hiding in my neighbor's yard right next to the demolition of the very loud demolition of the Pritchard building when my neighbor caught him on video. He said he was waiting for me to come to work, and loud demolition was happening, which he didn't react to at that time. And Nick was not bothered. He's very intelligent and incredibly manipulative in order to get his way, trying to get sympathy, but in reality, it is only to manipulate me and those around me to gain personal access to me, even after he was told not to. In that case, my neighbor called his father, whose only response was, "What's the big deal? Nick is harmless." Most recently, even after his family was served, there was an email which came via MSN where he wrote to a number of people, and it's included in the documents, including the Olympia Police Department, the 62nd Air Wing, City of Olympia employees, the governor's office, the state treasurer's office, and my office. His original email was blocked, but the response from Amazon is what arrived. There too, he is now attributing his stalking and harassing of me, which he's doing physically, to someone who sold his identity. He spells my whole name out several times in the email and demands assistance from me because he is going through a mental health crisis. That is an evidence as June 9, 2026 email, and see that's several addresses. He is well known in the Capitol for complaining to tourists, visitors, and our office, the tour office and Capitol security, that I won't be his friend, that I should be arrested for not allowing him to have a job in our office, and that we're not allowing him to visit the 12 to 16 times a day he used to. We only allow him once. And even when he comes in, he just stands and stares at me. Kate Jacob in her email has more information on that, but it is constant, daily, and aimed directly at me and no one else at the Capitol. In late February, during the 2026 legislative session, he knew from checking on the governor's website when the governor was acting on bills, then timed it, knowing that 3 hours later, I would be walking over to the governor's office to pick up the bills. As you know, Chapter 23, those kind of documents, I'm the one who chapters the bills, believe it or not, for the last 15 years. The governor's staff had a resort to escorting me to a non-public area because he was being so obtrusive, and then led me out to a side entrance because Nick kept asking me, because Nick was asking about me in the governor's office when I would be coming back, and he was supposed to be there to help me, even though I've never asked for his help in anything, and I've never had this issue happen in the past decade I've been chaptering bills. What caused the latest very aggressive and incredibly disruptive actions happened in March, when I was installing a historical display in our lobby with a team from the state archives. He was told on numerous occasions not to come into the office while if I was talking to a group or doing work in our lobby, and there was a sign on our door that said the lobby is closed, but we had to leave the door open. It was closed to visitors, not people doing public business. As in this case, it involved a 16-foot ladder. We posted a closed for official business only sign, and Nick was told by Kate, the secretary's personal assistant, to stay out of the office while work was underway. While that was going on, he became over-focused on me being on a 16-foot ladder, which I do all the time, by the way. Tried to come in the office several times, and it was very distracting to me whilst on the ladder. I had enough when he was going to visitor and tour staff, asking them to talk to me, to let him in and let him help me. Probably interacting with at least 4 people. I walked out of the lobby and made it clear that he had to go, and I said go, which he did, and those around me heard me say that. He went home and told his mother that I wish he was dead. The staff that was assisting me heard the conversation. I know that I only told him to go. In the past, Nick tended to embellish situations to fit his narrative, but this is the first time he outright lied. My deputy chief of staff, who is the assistant secretary of state, called me in the office and said he received a call from Nick's mother saying that I want him dead, which is absolutely not true. And honestly, even though he's annoyance, I would never want Nick dead. From that point onward, I ignored Nick and did not interact with him, even having to go out back doors, everything, just to stay away from him. During the next few weeks, his disruptive behavior dramatically increased at both my work and my home. He would stand outside my window at the legislative building, yelling and singing songs to me up to 3 or 4 times a day. He would stand at our doorway in the lobby after his single daily visit and try to get my attention, sometimes standing outside the lobby door for an hour, even being told to move on several times by staff. But he would come back, and you see some of the pictures in there. And he would try to get visitors, believe it or not, and building staff to advocate on my behalf to be his best friend, to take care of him. He would constantly follow me, either when I was going around the building because of my work or going home, always staying a few feet away, but letting it be known that he was near me by yelling and coughing loudly. Those are included in the photos from May 21st and May 24th and June 1st. He would wait in my neighborhood for me to come home and then stand in front of my home staring in the windows. I had changed as I made that comment before earlier. And then which prompted him to yell and scream toward my house one day, and you had the video of him dancing and aggressive karate chops in my home. Again, only aimed at my home several times a day. I recorded him in one time and included the evidence, which he had. When he had his fill, he just picked up his computer, then walked home. He didn't go to anyone else's house. He didn't walk through the neighborhood singing and dancing. He just walked home. He never did the same thing to anyone else in my neighborhood, only my home, and his focus was on me, my home, and where I work. You have the video under it's called May 24, 2026, Sunday, NC, outside my home. And his yelling the next day, he was in the alleyway because he saw me drive into my garage. And I only have the sound. but you can hear the sound and it's very distinctive. It's Nick's voice. Just 10 days before that, I finally had it. The last straw happened when I was meeting with a group of security personnel on upgrades to our lobby, and he kept trying to, he tried to interrupt the meeting twice. And finally, I sent him away. That is, you can see me pointing at the door, May 26, 2026, Nick stalking issue number 1. Even though he had been told less than a week before not to come into our lobby if I was meeting with people, he started to pull in tourists and guides to tell them that I am being mean and causing him harm, and that he wanted to be my friend and take care of him. He was so aggressive that when I pointed him out, he stood outside our door for almost an hour until we had to shut the doors. As soon as the doors were closed, and you could see it in the pictures as well, he left. He went directly home. He didn't go to any other offices. He didn't stop by any other door. That is when I decided to get my management involved. And it was the second time in a number of months, about 8 months. And this time they set up a meeting with my management and our attorney general at the AG's office. The 6 photos included in the evidence, which were inside the Capitol, are included in the evidence. The video evidence from where the photos are provided to the court, but is more than a gigabyte of memory and requires a special Genetec video player provided by the State Patrol. That's why I took the pictures, the photo cuts. This is an important point about the AG, because I made an official complaint about harassment stalking my leadership. My management talked to the Attorney General's office and the Washington State Patrol, which is in the evidence under the title AG follow-up with the original complaint May 13. After the discussion my leadership had with the AG, they said that it was clear that since Nick's constant following, inquiry, and harassment is only focused on me and no one else, that I would need to pursue a protective order process myself. He is not aiming his verbal assaults and harassment at the overall office or any particular building, but solely and clearly at me. Like Washington State Patrol, the AG noted that Nick was not physically threatening the people, and there was little they can do because we have people yelling at the building all the time and offices, but they usually come once, like a protest, maybe file a grievance because they a sovereign citizen or something like that, and leave. Both WSP and the AG noted that only a protection order from this court would allow them to remove Nick and keep him from the building. This is why we are here. One of my managers is the former director of the Address Confidentiality Program, which is part of our office. And she noted that it was a simple filing is needed, not a full-blown action, which kind of prevented me in the past to do this because I thought it would take a lot of court work. I also brought this issue up with the Department of Labor and Industries, and they noted that as a Washington State employee being harassed and stalked, you have the right to a safe workplace regardless of the perpetrator's neurodivergence. His repeated and constant yelling, stalking, and interruption happens multiple times a day. He's geared toward me and me only, both at my work and my home. And he is looking to annoy, harass, alarm, and cause me distress, even after being asked to stop several times. It is not a single act, but it is a pattern of behavior over 3 years. Bottom line, I have never been or ever wanted to be his friend, but I'm respectful of visitors to our office, nor take care of them. He has a family. They need to take care of his legal, business, credit cards, healthcare, and other things that he has demanded that I take care of. They are his legal guardians. His actions have no legitimate or lawful purpose but to harass and stalk me, and I'm asking the court for the following, if you don't mind. A 5-year protection order. I have about 5 years left before I retire. I have I've recommended map here for boundary. I think 1,000 feet would probably be right in front of his home, and that's not fair to Nick or his family. But would designate, and I got the map here, which basically designates 18th Street to Capitol, Capitol the 9th. And I picked 9th because I am also my many duties. I'm the project manager for the new library archives building, and we're in the process of tearing down the GA building right now. And I will be on that site a lot in the next 4 years. He needs to be prohibited from reaching out to me or others he interacts with, or emails which are specifically about me, including comments about me, including cyber harassment. Then he and his family does not engage in abusive litigation as set forth in RCW 26.51. They have a mental health evaluation that's noted in Section H of the filing, especially since he has expressed suicide or harmful comments to himself. That he and his family pay all fees and costs associated with his action my hope is that there aren't any. And that he needs to stay at least 100 feet from me, leaving from my car, which he has become obsessed with. I have a very distinct vehicle, especially concerning parades, which I am a lot of. I have not gone down his street in the 29 years I've lived in this neighborhood, nor will I. I thank the court and court staff and others for their patience in hearing my plea, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I appreciate your comments. It was thorough enough at this point that I don't have any follow-up questions. I think rather than ask you questions now, I'm gonna turn to Mr. Saragino and put him under oath, and then if there's any follow-up questions after testimony from him, I'll might return back to you. But
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so Mr. Saragino, I'm gonna put you under oath now, okay? If you could please
Yes.
raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide today is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
It all started with COVID, and being isolated must have caused me to become more aggressive because I was not used to be around people when COVID happened. And then when COVID was gone, I was become obsessive, became OCD,
Would you please?
and
Okay, excuse me, Your Honor, could we speak for our son?
So that's kind of one of the reasons I brought up the necessary and material standard before. And I think that in reviewing the materials, I did see some reference to Mr. Saragino perhaps having some mental health challenges. And I understand that his guardians or his parents, I'm not sure exact relationship, but were the ones who accepted service on his behalf. So I do think it would be helpful for me to hear from his family as well. So I think that's fine. I'll make the finding that, ma'am, are you his mother?
Yes.
Okay, and your name?
This is Jan Sergino,
Jan Saragino? Okay,
and this is my husband, Jeff.
Jan and Jeff Saragino.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll find that your testimony is necessary and material to making a decision here. So go ahead, Ms. Saragino.
when COVID happened, I was isolated, was not being around people, so I forgot all the social cues and a hard time reading people's emotions and cues. And then when COVID was gone, I got my COVID shots, and I became more anxiety and don't do well around a lot of people because I was not around people. And then I became more obsessed with the person that was put me in when my neighbor, who's Patrick, been obsessed with him because I have autism, and I have a hard time reading his emotions. I can't think straight because of autism,
Nick, let me.
and I'm a very peaceful person.
Yes, you are. You're a very peaceful person and a very loving and kind person.
And Ms. Saragino, so in order for either Jan or Jeff to provide comments today, I'll have to put you under oath as well,
Okay.
because everything you need to say is under penalty of perjury.
Okay.
So if you could please raise your right hand. And I'm sorry if you could back, I can't quite see you there, Jan Saragino. There we go. Do each of you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide today is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
I do.
All right, thank you both. Okay, go ahead.
So,
When in 2003, 2023, I was under a lot of stress. I was going to college. It was very stressful, and also been harassed by someone pretending to be James
okay,
Lee.
we're not gonna go there, sweetheart. He's very, very gullible, and he is very just believes everything told to him, and when he loves something, he loves it with his whole heart. And I'm just astounded that we got to this point, because I've been to the Capitol many times to talk to Patrick and asked if I could please make an appointment with him. So because I knew what Nick was doing was kind of annoying him, to say the least. And he would never respond to me. And then I talked to other people in the building, his secretary. Oh, Nick's is a total joy. We love having him come in. And I have names of people who think Nick is.
You show 'em?
Well, honey's all right. That there's state patrol people, the governor,
Ferguson,
Ferguson,
Bob Ferguson.
Jay Inslee and Trudy, they both tell me how much they enjoy his visit. So he's there to see everybody. It's not just Patrick. And he would come home and say, I say, well, what did you see Patrick today? And he said, no, he wasn't there today. And I go, well, you can't try again to see him till tomorrow. For some reason, he just wanted to say hi to you. That's all. And
then I lost my job
he lost his job.
in the summer, and that must have
Well, Nick, no,
stressed me out the most.
It was stressed out because he learned what it felt like to have no money to pay on things you want. And so he was very focused on money, but he doesn't understand money very well.
And then I applied 3 credit cards, and one credit card closed me down, and then
So,
Credit One Bank closed me down for no reason.
so yeah, it was the reason he had no money. But my husband and I have lived in the neighborhood for 45 years, and we are looking at this as losing sort of our personal freedom as well. We spend a lot of time at the Capitol, walk there every day with my dog. We've considered it just an extension of our yard. And I don't know how we got to here, because Patrick never called me back, sent any message back to me, nothing. And all these other people think he's great, and they love his visits. I'm a former school teacher, taught for 35 years. My husband's a former salesman, was there for how many years?
46 years
46
in the
years.
community working, yes.
And honey, would you?
And I'm a law-abiding citizen that I never do any bad things.
He would never hurt
Okay.
anyone, I can't imagine.
In your honor, again, this is Jeff Saragino, Nick's dad. I want to clear up one thing too that I heard. We are Nick's parents. We aren't his legal guardian. We do not have guardianship over Nick. We do have medical power of attorney, and he is seeing a doctor. We do have him on medication. We're working hard to make Mr. McDonald's life better. We're going to keep Nick away from the Capitol. We have been doing that for the last 3 weeks. But Nick is very peaceful. He would never hurt a flea. If anything, he's the one that is taken advantage of most of the time by people because he's so trusting and believes everything he hears. So therefore, he's had several issues over the years, which we have to deal with and take care of, and which right now he's looking for a job. That keeps him busy. So when he lost his job, he had all this time on his hand, which he enjoyed going to the Capitol and walking around through the campus and the interior of that beautiful building. And then, things bother him, like the Iranian war, things that go on around him. So he does say some things that are very alarming to people. Certainly this suicide stuff, I do not like it. We've talked to his doctor about it, and he tries to get people to feel sorry for him, and that's a darn wrong way to do it. But we're working on all these issues.
Mhm.
But other than that, I'm telling you that Nick is harmless as can be. And I'm so sorry that he's bothering Mr. McDonald. And we'll do everything we can to prevent this.
And also to just address some of the things that where Mr. McDonald was not exactly nice to Nick. I mean, it's okay. I want him to be firm with him and no, 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 no. But as far as that, went the day that he claimed that Nick said that he heard Patrick say, "I wish you were dead." He came out and he was very upset. And I said, well, what happened? And he told me. So I thought, that's it. I'm coming down to talk to Patrick. And we came down, and I asked to see him, and his secretary said, well, he's away at his desk right now. And I said, okay. And but I told him the situation. I go, this can't be true. I mean, this is what my son said. So we came out and talked to, I think I talked to Steve Hobbs, maybe.
What's his name?
I don't remember who I talked to, but and told him that this is what my son heard. Patrick said he didn't say it. I'm not saying he didn't say it, but I'm saying this is what my son heard, that you wished he were dead. And then another time, with one of his last things to say to Nick was, "You've really effed up this time, and I won't have to ever see your face again." So those, I mean, his remarks are very unkind. He's very, I understand his frustration, but he never once came to us to say we have a real problem here. And we didn't know. We didn't know that this was causing so much pain because all these other people love him coming down.
And also the reason why what was walking on Mr. McDonald's street during construction is because the old new house had this high level of asbestos, and it can cause mesothelioma, and the noise really bothered me because I'm sensitive to loud noises. That's my disability with autism spectrum. I'm sensitive to loud noises, scent, smell, light, and brightness and textures and being touched.
Okay. Well, thank you all three of you, the Saraginos. I understand a lot of this can be difficult to hear, particularly about your son. I think, and I don't want to speak too much for Mr. McDonald, but I did hear him say, so I think it's okay maybe to repeat, that it seems like everyone's a bit in agreement that that Nicholas is not a violent person. I think I heard Mr. McDonald say something to the effect of there's no fear of violence. And the an anti-harassment protection order doesn't confer any kind of label on someone as being violent or anything like that. That's not necessarily the basis. It can be, but it's not necessary for a basis for an anti-harassment order finding that someone is a violent threat to the community or to an individual or anything like that. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, everyone is clear. I don't think anybody here is necessarily alleging that that Nicholas here is a violent person that needs to be restrained for that reason. So that seems like a point that you all wanted to make, the Saraginos, and what I'm hearing from both sides sounds like first and foremost is that that Nicholas is not necessarily a violent person, and it sounds like from what I've read in the petition and the evidence provided by Mr. McDonald, and from what I heard in his testimony today, it's while he's certainly alleging level of harassment and stalking, I'm not hearing any fear of violence. So I want to make sure that's clear enough. I do have, I think, a few follow-up questions. This I suppose could be answered by any of you, but Nicholas, to the extent you're able to tell me, a couple of documents that Mr. McDonald had filed are from some coworkers of his, and who have corroborated his claims that their office has tried to work with you, particularly over the last few years, and then few weeks, to allow you to be in the building and to work with you. And sounds like you're a familiar face on the Capitol campus, but that it had been communicated to you a couple of times in different ways that the feeling, not just from Mr. McDonald, but his coworkers, were that he was being targeted a bit, and that he was being made uncomfortable. It sounds like Folks from the Washington State Patrol may have talked to you about that. And so, I'm hearing what you're saying about, it sounds like you're struggling with some mental health issues, and COVID was difficult, and coming out of that was difficult. Do you recall being talked to by folks there at the Capitol to leave Mr. McDonald alone? And do you remember that? Do you remember how you responded, if you changed your behavior in response to that or anything like that? Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Trisha Krantz told me not to stalk him, following him, and I did a really good job to not stalk him when I had my job, because I was preoccupied and productive, and it was positive reinforcement, and I was leaving Mr. McDonald alone when I had my job because I had something to do.
Mm.
All right.
Francis with the State Patrol, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Is there anything further from any of the Saraginos?
I'd like to say Tricia Krantz is quite a friend to Nick, and she made several times say, Nick, it was like almost a game, how can we, poke the anthill until the ants are stirred up and mad. And Tricia, she would talk to Nick, say, Nick, just leave him alone. And Nick would say, but why doesn't he like me? And I go, it doesn't matter why he doesn't like you. He just doesn't like you. That's just the way it is. And I think he just internalized it so much as being because he's disabled. And I said, that's not probably true, honey. It's just you've outstayed your welcome, and you need to stay out of it. We've tried to keep him out. And that one day or one time a day seemed to work really well, as far as I knew, because no one told me any different.
Thank you
Your
all.
Honor, but what I think too is that Nick had this love. It all started he had a love for the C-17s aircraft, which he owns several of, and over this airplane issue, he just gets drawn in and does not know how to turn it off. And so these are things he needs to work on. Other than that, we're really sorry. We just need to, keep Nick on the straight and narrow.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate all your comments. The context is certainly helpful as well as kind of hearing from family. So I appreciate that. Since it is Mr. McDonald's kind of burden of proof, as I said at the beginning, I do allow the petitioner to sort of have the last word. It's their case. And so if there's some concluding remarks you'd like to make before I make a ruling.
Yes, can I do?
You're done.
You're done.
Did you? Well, I want to make sure that you all are done before I let Mr. McDonald have a final word. Nicholas, was there something further you'd like to say?
Can I make a very sincere apology?
No.
I appreciate the sentiment, Mr. Nicholas Saragino. In these hearings, though, we don't let folks talk to each other. They just talk to me.
Can I talk to you about it?
You can express to me sort of how you're feeling, but make sure to talk to me just a little bit further. I know you've sent emails apologizing, so I think that that message has been conveyed. But if there's a couple, say you can go ahead.
And also, these words harassment and stalking, they're way harsh to what was really happening. I mean, Nick likes to sing and dance, and he's full of joy. Somebody doesn't like it, he's still a citizen of the world, and he still has his own rights too. I realize, and he doesn't deserve to be swore at either.
And I understand what my action got this too far. I should have been paying attention, and I will stay away for 5 years and work on keeping my distance from Mr. McDonald and following directions.
All right. Thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate what you're saying. And so I'm going to turn now to Mr. McDonald to have some final words, and then I'll make a decision. So appreciate all three of you and what you provided today. Go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Commissioner Stillwell. Again, I thank the court for their time. I understand this is a difficult situation. All situations are, but I feel as, and of course, it's respect your decision, but the preponderance of the evidence, regardless of the person's narrative versions, is overwhelming. And I would hope that, and like I said, I offered a concept 1,000 feet is too much, but I had the map here, but I'll leave it up to the court. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
And I am sorry it came this far. Really am.
All right. Well, this is a really difficult one, because there's significantly less. I wouldn't say there's even any ill will here. It sounds like Mr. McDonald sort of came here. I know that Saragino's the parents here may have felt maybe less so, but it seems from Mr. McDonald it may have been more of a last straw situation rather than kind of a first jump at, how can I get this guy in trouble? As this is a preponderance of the evidence standard for all 6 of those elements of unlawful harassment. And I think given the nature of where Mr. McDonald works, that being, the legislative building and the proximity to Mr. Saragino's home and him being a resident of Washington State here, I'm going to go through the elements in detail because I want to make sure the record is clear. But to start and not bury the lead, I do find that there's a preponderance of the evidence here that Mr. McDonald has met his burden of proof for unlawful harassment, and that an order here is appropriate given what's been alleged. Again, I'm going to walk through each of these elements to make sure I'm clear and everyone understands. I also want to say at the front, we're not going to do a 5-year order. We're going to do 1-year order, and 1-year orders are they are renewable, and when they come up for renewal, it is if the protected party wishes to renew it for an additional year, then there's a form you fill out, and then the burden is at that point actually on the restrained party to show that there's been a change in circumstance justifying that the order not be renewed. So it kind of shifts over, the burden shifts over to the restrained party. And that is to both allow orders to sort of not continue on forever if there is a change in circumstance, and also provides that regular sort of check-in with the parties if the protected party wants to continue with the order. So it's not going to be for 5 years. And then Mr. McDonald here I think has also made some comments about wanting to make sure that the order doesn't unnecessarily infringe on Nicholas's ability to navigate his own neighborhood and things of that nature. So we'll get to that because I want to make sure that's important too. I want to make sure that the order clearly protects Mr. McDonald and doesn't unnecessarily interfere with Nicholas's ability to navigate his own neighborhood. So we'll get to those. Just everyone keep in mind that I'm mindful of those aspects of the order here, and we'll craft something accordingly. But number one, the element of knowing and willful course of conduct. It seems from the petition and the testimony and the documents in the petition that there's been a course of conduct over at least a series of 3 years of Mr. Saragino directing attention at Mr. McDonald to the point where over the last few weeks, it got to the point where staff at the Secretary of State's office and even law enforcement, it sounds like, has had to modify operations there in order to protect Mr. McDonald, not necessarily from safety risks, but from being exposed to Mr. Saragino's behavior that was causing substantial emotional distress, and that this has been going on for a period of years. So I think there's been a course of conduct that has been directed at Mr. McDonald. There's several coworkers have filed letters in the file attesting to that fact. Mr. Saragino sort of corroborated that a bit as well. And obviously testimony from Mr. McDonald indicating that there's been some focus on Mr. McDonald over the last several years. Without lawful or legitimate conduct, here's where, again, a lot of the rub usually is for these types of cases. And so I do find there's a preponderance of the evidence that the conduct was without, in this case, legitimate purpose. I recognize that Mr. Saragino is struggling with some mental health issues and may not have interpreted his behavior the way that it was being received. But objectively speaking, it sounds like from both Mr. McDonald's testimony as well as letters from his coworkers, and as evidenced by instructions from Washington State Patrol members, that it was conduct that Mr. Saragino was told to stop. And again, he was told to stop. I think the quote I wrote down here was clearly been told to stop several times by Washington State Patrol. Letters from coworkers at the Secretary of State's office also attest to that Mr. Saragino was told that his behavior towards Mr. McDonald was inappropriate and to stop, and that it just didn't. It persisted. Staff again tried to work with him, limiting his hours, coming in once a day, and that just didn't seem to end that type of behavior. And so there was that continuing behavior without legitimate purpose. That I think, based on the testimony, it was detrimental to Mr. McDonald. He's testified about how that's impacted him personally. It sounds like there's been some job-related issues with tours and the governor's staff having to kind of escort Mr. McDonald at certain events, given some of that behavior. So there's been detriment there. And I do think it would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress. That there's testimony that Mr. McDonald would stay at the office, being followed home, being asked about, persistently. I think a reasonable person would suffer substantial emotional distress given that level of concentration on one person. And I think from the evidence, it's clear to me that it did cause Mr. McDonald substantial emotional distress. And so I find each of those elements are made justifying an anti-harassment protection order. As far as stalking, again, I think because there's a restraint provision in the order prohibiting stalking behavior, I'm going to make those findings as well. And I do, again, a knowing course of conduct, I think, again, is here. I already went over those. The second element involving repeated contacts, monitoring, tracking, surveillance, keeping under observation, disrupting activities in a harassing manner, or following of another person. I think there's been evidence here beyond that is more likely than not that those activities are occurring. It sounds like Mr. McDonald was several times being monitored by Mr. Saragino. He was asking about where he was to other staff, following him home, standing outside his office. I think that constitutes that second element. Again, I think it would cause a reasonable person to feel intimidated, frightened, under duress, significantly disrupted. As well, I think it's reasonable to feel that way if given that type of conduct and serving no lawful or legitimate purpose. That Mr. Saragino at least reasonably should have known that impact. I think that was communicated to him. And again, mindful of perhaps some mental health challenges. But I think despite those, I think that doesn't necessarily allow that kind of conduct to go without knowing, at least reasonably knowing how that could have been received by Mr. McDonald. And finally, again, that Mr. McDonald then suffered substantial emotional distress. I think that element has been made as well. So I find for both unlawful harassment and stalking, the elements have been met, justifying those restraint provisions. So what I'm going to do, though, is craft the order in a way that doesn't interfere unnecessarily with Mr. Saragino's ability to navigate his own neighborhood. So with that in mind, let's see. A couple of things to clarify. One thing I can't do, so I guess I'll go through the restraint provisions here. The first being no contact. And so that simply prohibits contact from Mr. Sergino to Mr. McDonald. And that's including non-physical contact. So, either coming into physical contact, talking directly, indirectly through third parties, electronically, telephonically, anything like that between the two. The second restraint provision is stalking behavior. So do not harass, follow, monitor, keep under physical or electronic surveillance, cyber harass, or use phone, video, audio, or other electronic means to record, photograph, or track. Those weren't allegations here, but those will be in the order. Or communication, including digital wire electronic communication of Mr. McDonald. The important one, I think, to focus on is the exclusion area. So, with that, I know Mr. McDonald, you had indicated some kind of a stay away from area. The way these work, we're not able to sort of create a separate area. What we do is we have a foot distance restriction, which, as you indicated, it defaults to 1,000 feet. It sounds like you're acknowledging that might be a bit restrictive.
Yeah, his house is about 800 feet away from mine. So.
Okay. And I've kind of brought up Google Maps trying to get a sense of this here. Is there so you think about 800 feet, is 100 feet?
No,
Something
honestly,
that would be.
I'd say because you can stand on the street corner, which is 120 feet from my house, we used to do. I'd almost say 250 feet.
250 feet. All right.
Especially at work.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds like 250 feet distance. Now that's a knowingly coming within or remaining within. So, to the extent that you all are neighbors, there's likely to be some sort of incidental, you're driving down the same street, you're walking down opposite sides of the street, these aren't gotcha orders where if you happen to be within 250 feet of Mr. McDonald on the street or at the store or something like that, then you're suddenly committing a crime. It's that knowingly remaining. So if you do happen to see that you're within 250 feet, if you're getting close to Mr. McDonald, and you stay or you get closer or you otherwise try to communicate with him or stay within that distance restriction, that's when it becomes a violation. But that knowingly remaining is important to point out with neighbors. So I think that 250 feet distance is reasonable here, given the proximity of the residences. And so that will be of Mr. McDonald, his person, himself, his residence, vehicle, and workplace. And so that's why I wanted to make sure the record was clear here, because I recognize the nature of Mr. McDonald's workplace is public and open to the public, but I want to make sure that the findings here are clear, because that 250 feet also involves Mr. McDonald's place of work, the Secretary of State's office.
That basically is the whole Capitol building. Besides,
The legislative building. That's the legislative building. That's right.
I should know. I'm writing a book on it. So
yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So some things that I know are in the order that we tend to not put, and I'm not going to put this in here just because, frankly, there's a lot of these are written for matters in Superior Court. A mental health evaluation and follow-up treatment, there's really no practical way for us to order that and follow up with that. So I'm not going to require any kind of mental health treatment. Similarly with this, I want to be clear too, because I think I heard about a request that Mr. Sergino not talk about Mr. McDonald or kind of spread information online or social media. Those are also things that we can't necessarily do. This order protects Mr. McDonald from communication from Mr. Serengino. So Mr. Serengino, you can't go online in trying, tagging Mr. McDonald or otherwise trying to communicate with him indirectly. But if it's not communication to Mr. McDonald, that's not something the court has the authority in this order to monitor. And then as far as restrict abusive litigation, that's one that we tend to order in the event that there's some evidence that is happening or about to happen.
I back off.
Okay, all right. Yeah. As well as fees and costs, there's usually some specific findings we make on those fronts. Yeah. So I'm not gonna make you order you to pay anything there, Mr. Serengino. All right. All right. With that said, those are the restraint provisions. Again, they'll be in place for a year. Do any of the Serenginos, do any of you have any questions?
I have a question. What if I
Go ahead.
don't, what if I follow the 250 feet and a year gone by and no violations? What will happen?
So, couple of things. So this expires after a year. And this, I guess, goes to you too, Mr. McDonald. What happens is so it's up to Mr. McDonald what happens next. This will expire per its own terms in a year. If Mr. McDonald would like to have it renewed, then within 90 days of the expiration date, there would be a petition to renew the protection order. And what would happen next is we would send a summons out, and folks would come to court on that renewal request. And at that point, it would be renewed unless you can show by another preponderance of the evidence, so more likely than not, that there's been some kind of change in circumstance that would justify not renewing it. So it isn't, and it's expressly under the law, not enough for there just to have been no violation. There needs to be something that has changed that could tell the judge, there's been a change in circumstance now, we're not going to renew this order. Just simple compliance with it, though, under the law is not necessarily enough. There needs to be a change in circumstance. And I don't want to get too far down the line into that. That's a future hearing, and I also don't want to give you legal advice. But that's what would happen after that. So it expires in a year unless it's renewed. And if it's renewed, you'll get notice of that.
I have another question. Can the person request to cancel the restraining order at any time within the year?
You can always ask, but I got to be honest that rarely, if ever, happens. Again, just claiming compliance with an order that's in effect usually doesn't work. So I mean, nothing. I'm not going to say you're prohibited from asking. Anyone can request a modification or a termination, but that's pretty rare. So I'll just put that out there. Any other questions?
Yes, so he is not allowed to go into the Capitol Legislative Building anymore.
That's correct.
And I live on, I know, on Water Street. That's our path, is to go down Water Street. Is that within the 250 feet?
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you that.
Yeah, it is.
I would think so.
Water, 120 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I would. And again, this is, and I know you said we. So I'm assuming you're talking about you and Nicholas. This doesn't at all interfere with Jan or Jeff. But yeah, I would be careful to map out and make sure you're aware of the 250 feet around the legislative building. I don't want to say that yes or no on the. I don't really have the map in front of me, so that's going to be sort of on you all to understand the 250 foot restriction there.
Hey, Your Honor, person on Columbia Street named Dale Smith, who's also unstable, and she
Yeah.
yells at me, so I need to stay away from her.
Oh, you need to stay away from her too.
She's another neighbor on
And
Columbia
we're
Street.
not hearing about other,
No, no, no.
all right.
She doesn't
Okay.
either.
So thank you all for being here again. I know it's difficult. I appreciate you being here, providing some extra context. Hopefully I answered your questions. And there will be a copy of the protection order on the Thurston County District Court website by typing in the case number that you were given for today's hearing. And then you can get a copy of that as well, which goes over the restraint provisions that we just talked about. All right. Thank you all for being here. And then Mr. McDonald, did you have any questions?
Just thank you for your time. I really appreciate the patience of your staff. This is the first time in my years ever been in a courtroom.
All right. Well, thank you as well for today. And with that, I'm filling out the order now, and copies will be available on same thing on the Thurston County District Court website. Thank you. Okay.
We're good.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.